Action!
Hello, everyone. I am your host, Beth Johnson, and with me is my co-host, as always, scientist Franck Marchis. And this is the Grudge Report. We're continuing our special 10-part series on the best of Stargate SG-1 after a very brief hiatus for someone to go to Europe. We're covering one episode per season as chosen by the Stargate fans on gateworld.net. This week's show is again a little different as we're covering two episodes, Lost City, Season 7, episodes 21 and 22. So basically the season finale. The finale was actually the episode chosen, but just to keep it clear and concrete, we're doing both. So here we go. Franck, how are you doing? Welcome back. Good to see you on screens.
Good to see you. Did you miss me during the summer?
Of course I missed you. I always miss you. It was weird not having you around. I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm glad your trip was safe.
Yeah, next time I will bring my own router and Wi-Fi so I can do show even when I'm traveling. Because I discovered that Europe has a very bad internet connection everywhere. It's almost impossible to do live Zoom relying on phone connection.
I know you tried a few times and it was rough.
It was like, so I said, okay, let's stop that.
All right, well, here you are back in your shed and we are ready to do some more episodes. I know you did, last week's episode was on The Expanse, but we're going to go back to Stargate SG-1. And really quickly before we kick this off, I want to remind everybody that you can always click that little bell for subscriptions and get notified when we post another one of these. And also we're gearing up for the next seasons of The Expanse and Discovery, but we have some special stuff planned in the meantime because it sounds like those aren't going to come out until later in the year. So if you have suggestions, please leave them in the comments because we are looking for some more shows to sort of fill the gap time. We have some ideas. We'd like to see if you guys have other ideas. So make sure you leave some comments down below for us about episodes you want to see us cover. All right, here we go. This is the season finale of season 7. We are on the way to getting into a spin-off series. We're not quite there yet, but this is sort of like we're edging there. We're edging there. All right. In this pair of episodes, they have discovered that there is a planet they think another one of the ancient knowledge devices is on. They want to go and get it before Anubis can get it and bring it back and analyze it. And so they get General Hammond to agree to a mission. 3 different SG teams go off to go do this. And SG-1 finds the device and can't figure out how to get it off the wall right as Anubis's forces attack. And Jack does what Jack does and sticks his face in it again. So we get to go down another road of Jack slowly becoming, the repository of all ancient knowledge and doing things that he doesn't know and saying words he doesn't know. And it's all great. But as this rolls on, one of the things that they have to do is Jack leads them essentially to a world where they're looking for the lost city. They don't know what the lost city is, but it's been in all of these, ancient texts and stuff. They're finding references to it. And my comment at one point in time was, wait, this isn't the lost city. It's like, well, where is the lost city? I'm like, it's lost, people. That's the whole point. It's a lost city. Anyway, that being said, they end up at a planet that is orbiting a red giant. And that's one of the few moments of pure science explanation that I think we got in all of this was Daniel asks, how could anybody have lived here? And Samantha answers, well, it's a red giant. It wasn't always basically it wasn't always like this, and it's expanded. And so that is a thing that happens, right? Like that's going to happen to our star.
Yeah, that's our future, basically, that we saw in this show.
Yes.
Our sun, which has a mass of 1 solar mass, because that's a perfect unit, will basically evolve such as it will go into this inflation because of the fusion will change in the core. So it will expand, becoming a red giant. So if the sun is if the star is between 0.3 and 7 or 8 solar mass, that's the kind of evolution you expect to see. Gradually increase of the size, cooling down, getting redder, and that's what we call them, red giant. And this
it does not signal good things for planets orbiting in close, does it?
Yeah, that's kind of that will be a problem for us, because even if the temperature of the red giants is smaller compared to is lower compared to the temperature of the sun on the surface, it's bigger and it's closer to us, of course. So we reach a point at which the temperature of our sun, our temperature on our Earth will increase significantly, and we can expect vaporization of the ocean, wiped out of the entire atmosphere. And then the temperature will increase so much that the rocks will start melting. And what we saw in this episode is basically a planet, probably a terrestrial planet, that used to have a civilization. And the civilization was advanced and smart.
Or at least an outpost, right? All we find is this one tiny outpost. So it might just be
they build this
outpost.
Kind of dome on the top, right, where you can basically protect yourself against the melting lava, and live underneath at the temperature which is more or less okay for a human being. And there is an atmosphere as well, which is kind of surprising, but hey, why not? But anyway.
Well, I think some of that had to do with the ancient device that's there, like, because I remember Jack actually uses some hand motions on the arm of the ancient device, and it makes like an atmosphere, and so like it
which is exactly the atmosphere that human being used to breathe, which is
right.
Ancient seems to be breathing the same atmosphere as well as everybody else in this Stargate world. Every intelligent species seems to be breathing the same kind of atmosphere. By the way, I just realized.
Right, and I should point out that they got here by spaceship, not by Stargate, because when they tried to dial the gate, it didn't dial, so it didn't go through. So either there wasn't a Stargate, or had something that happened to it. So they get there and there's all this lava everywhere. There's a red giant. So clearly things happened, and this force field protected the little tiny outpost. And so they've managed to go in, and Jack does all of his amazing things. So,
but let's
of course, I'm
giant, because often people ask, because I'm an astronomer, remember? So I'm supposed to know the stars and everything, and tell you which one is a red giant. Well, so there is 2 red giants which are very known. You know one, I know one, right?
Right. So
one of
you have Arcturus, and I have Aldebaran.
Exactly. So that's Alpha.
So if you want to go out and look, you can see these.
So Alpha Bootis and Alpha Tauri. So that's in the Bootis constellation, in the Taurus constellation. I can find Aldebaran very easily, because it's the eye of the Taurus constellation. And Arcturus, you cannot miss it right now. You go outside, you will see Arcturus. It's a very bright red star, magnitude 2, I think, or something like this. I'm probably wrong. Someone's going to correct me here. But what is interesting is that those are nearby red giants. We're talking about a few less than 60 million light years away from us. 65, light years away from us. And they are, they're not that old. They're only 6-7 billion years old. Our sun is 4.5 billion years old. So those are the evolution of something like our sun in 2 billion years that we can see.
Right. And our sun is expected to hit that point in another 4.5 billion years, right? What I've read is that we're at the halfway point, basically.
Exactly. So, if you want to see a red giant and talk about impress your partner, those are the 2 you can show easily at the moment.
So this world is covered in lava, which is really cool to me, of course, because my favorite moon, if anybody doesn't know this by now, I'll say it one more time. My favorite moon is Io. I love Io. It is the most volcanically active body in our solar system. And obviously this world gives it a run for its money, because it is simply just covered in lava. And of course, what that type of lava, I mean, it looks like to me just from what they've designed. But again, TV show, people, TV show. It looks like basalt, right? It's just it was very liquid lava, very runny, solidified pretty easily. So it's probably along the lines of a basalt. Very fascinating how they did that, though. It looked like what I've seen around volcanoes, and even a little bit under the ocean, although you get slightly different formations under the ocean. So, but yeah, it was an entire lava world, and I liked how they had the lava covering the force field, because that's, if you think about it, guys, this is how quickly this lava cools, right? It's just a force field held in place basically by, the power source that's using it, right? And at a certain point, that lava just crusts over so quickly that it has now left that shape of the force field in the lava rock itself. So I thought that was a really cool touch to like finding it. That's how quickly that rock cools, though, because if you had rock that cooled really slowly, the force field would go away before that rock like had finished cooling, because obviously that's a lot of stress on a force field. So I'm not sure how well designed that would be. Obviously we'll get to the other one in a minute. So let's wait on that. Okay. So they're on this lava world. They've found a way through the dome, and Jack has initiated some sort of ancient device. It's a chair. Those of you who follow Stargate will know what I'm talking about immediately. Okay. He gets out a power device. I know what this is called because it gets named later in the show. But this is the first time we've really seen one of these ones. This is kind of cool. Like, this is sort of fun for me because I'm like, oh, that's when this happened. Okay. Now, there's a whole other plot going on at the same time where a very important character has been introduced to this series. And that character is Dr. Elizabeth Weir. Now, for those of you who have watched Stargate, this is not the same actress you are familiar with from Stargate Atlantis. So it sort of startled me. I was like, oh, right, played by somebody entirely different for the first time. And she is being tasked with taking over the Stargate program. Basically, they are shutting it down as a military operation. There's a whole thing of politics. Stupid vice president dude is involved. And they want a civilian in it because they have this anticipation that this is going to become public, and they want a non-military face on all of it. And so they've brought in a diplomat. She's international relations. And so we have this whole thing going on, which is causing a big conflict, because here they come back. Jack's still got all of this knowledge in his head. They're trying to stop an invasion from Anubis, right? Anubis has figured out that they got the device, the ancient knowledge, and he's worried that they're going to figure out where, what the device is, and they're going to bring back the technology. So he's bringing his force to Earth. Drama, politics. The invasion basically starts. And as they're coming back with whatever it is, wherever it is they're going, this is the great part. They figure out they have to go back to Earth. They have flown to an entirely different planet and they have to race back to Earth, because it turns out the thing that they're being sent for is that. Now, they think they're being sent for the Lost City. No. They're sent to Antarctica, which is pretty cool in and of itself. So, Franck, can you talk a little bit about like how there could have been life or civilization at Antarctica? Now, keep in mind, probably 30 million years ago. What did Antarctica look like? What was its place in the world? Was it at the South Pole?
No, Antarctica was part of the Pangea. And then slightly, when Pangea broke, and you're going to ask me when it was, and of course I don't remember, but we're going to Google it quickly. The continent drifted away from the others together with Australia. And Australia stopped, but then Antarctica stayed at the bottom of Earth, basically at the South Pole. We call it the bottom, even though Australian we say this is the top and we are at the bottom. But let's not enter into this argument. So that means that Antarctica had a very temperate climate for quite a long period of time. And it's only when you reach the South Pole of Earth that it became a cold area. and get these high sheets and then kind of disappear underneath the surface, underneath the ice. But I want to say something, because I've been waiting to say that for quite a long time. We have so many books I read and so many YouTube videos of pseudoscientists claiming that there may be a civilization on Antarctica, and we probably did not find it yet, but it does exist. Okay, so I spent a few minutes of my time today to really try to go through the data of what we know about Antarctica, and I discovered that Antarctica is the most well-mapped region of Earth. Antarctica has been observed continuously. You know, we put satellites in polar orbit, so they pass over Antarctica quite often, right? And they take a lot of pictures, and we have done that for like multiple decades now. So scientists in February 2019 published a map of 50 terabytes. And this map is basically the combination of all the observation of Antarctica taken in visible wavelength. And they basically they have the Antarctica with a resolution to 2 to 8 meter, meaning that the details you can see on the surface of this map are smaller, of the size of a car. Okay, so that's quite well Antarctica now. Of course, you're gonna say, well, maybe people missed it because we didn't look at the 150 or 50 terabyte of data carefully. I'm betting the researcher who did that created some kind of algorithm to look at every details. And if you don't believe me, and you believe there is a civilization on Antarctica, you can download the map yourself and play with it and zoom it and spend your time looking at it. It's kind of cool in a way that you can zoom in and in and in on ice, in fact, but see the small details on the surface of this continent. So just to clarify, the notes say that 98% of Antarctica has been mapped with such a high resolution. What is missing is really the area around the southern pole. Okay, just around it. Okay, so then there is the argument saying, well, Antarctica is maybe well mapped, but the continent is underneath an ice crust, right? There is these icy sheets on the top of it, so we don't see much. We don't know what's going on on the surface of the continent because of this ice. So I look as well, and people have been thinking about that. We're not the first one. And in the 90s, they ran a program called ERS-1 and ERS-2 to map by radar observation Antarctica. So they have picture with a resolution of 20 kilometers, but some close-up with a resolution of 25 meters, called the SAR images. And then in the 90s, 1995, they launched this mission called RadarSat-1. And this one was dedicated to map in radar Antarctica with a resolution of 25 meters. So just to give you an idea, 25 meters, for those who are not familiar, you can convert that in feet if you want. But a typical block in New York City is 260 feet, so that's 80 meters. So if there was a civilization, a city, or some pyramids, or whatever you want on the surface of the continent of Antarctica, RadarSat-1 will have seen that. And the data are available also on the web, so you can download the data yourself and play with them and find yourself the structure of the continent of Antarctica. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
And we'll make sure we have links to these sites in our show notes, so you can go and play with these maps yourself, which is always really cool.
Yeah.
So they've come back to Antarctica. Jack is in basically a fugue state, just doing ancient stuff as he does like this, and has made it so that they can get underground. And it looks like it's another outpost, just like the one on the lava planet. And he takes the power source they took from that planet, puts it in where there's an obviously burned out power source here, and activates the chair and defeats Anubis's forces. Yay! Anubis's forces are completely defeated, which is really cool. the thing that got me about all of this was that thinking about the Prometheus, which is the spaceship that the government has in SG-1. It's the very first one, and looking at it and comparing it to what we kind of have for spaceships right now, and just like what we have right now are basically just rockets. It's just rockets. They just go up and they come down, and that's pretty much it. Like there's not any, we don't have anything that has its own power to like go someplace. Yes, we send probes out and we send spacecraft out in the sense that, look, it's going to land on a planet and become a rover, but we don't have like a spacefaring travel system at all. And so looking at Prometheus and thinking about the amount of time that it took them to develop that, based on and looking at what we have now, we have a long way to go to get to that point. I mean, just not even talking about like propulsion systems, but just designing spacecraft that aren't just a rocket that goes up and comes down is going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, right now the only thing we have is a fancy elevator, basically, or an elevator
basically
on booster. That's what we have to go up. And now we're starting going down with it. It's been very new with the SpaceX first stage coming back on Earth. So we have a lot of progress to make in space propulsion to be able to do what the Prometheus is doing. Have you seen the show? I know we're talking about Stargate, but have you seen the show For All Mankind?
I have not. Everybody has. I've heard a lot of people tell me I should watch it. I just haven't.
In the show, they use the space shuttle to go to the moon. So they basically developed, because we are capable of going to the moon and staying there. They realized that having rockets and all of these complex features to go to the moon, etc., is not the best. So they create a shuttle, and it looks like the shuttle of the 90s, okay, to go to the moon, to be able to go over there and land over there, etc. So that's one of the reasons we don't have a spaceship, is because we don't really have a reason to have one.
True.
If we had a base on the moon and we were traveling there back and forth, that's the reason we have a moon. That's why.
So with the idea of that, and for those of you who aren't in my art Imaginarium, that has been our theme over the summer, is designing space bases. With that and the whole Artemis program coming up, two questions, I guess. Do you think that we're going to see advances on actually building a lunar base? And two, if yes, will that motivate us to change how we design our spacecraft?
I'm an optimistic, so I will say yes to both questions. The lunar base is, I think, the step we need to be able to go anywhere else. I mean, I know some people are extremely ambitious that they want to send human beings to Mars, which is great. But before sending them to Mars, I think we need to practice. Okay, it's like when you go biking, you don't do the Tour de France first. Okay, what you do, you take your bike and you go bike in your neighborhood with your friends. You all remember that, right? So let's do that. The neighborhood with the friends is to go to the moon, set up a base over there, so we can go back and forth and find the environment we need, carry stuff slowly, and grow the base if we want. So there's more people, more inhabitants. It's going to be probably For All Mankind. They show that exactly. They show how it was just at the beginning, the first stage, not the first stage, but the LEM and some containers, and then it grew and became some very complex micro city, right? So when we have that done, we will realize that going to the moon is great with rockets and LEM and the same kind of technology from the 70s, but we need to get a better propulsion system. And we have something to explore too. And imagine if we have a base on the moon, we will want to explore the moon as well. So
and scientists like Pascal Lee are working on that, right? He's here at the SETI Institute, and he's actually had his interns over the summer were working on figuring out what were good places to build a moon base, right? So that you could do exploration, you could communicate back with Earth, you would have the best chance of being near some of those icy patches in craters.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of work is currently going into figuring out where we can get to be on the moon. So wow, we have just really wandered off from Stargate episode, but this is really cool. Okay, so back to the task at hand. We win the battle, but there is one thing that you kind of made a note of that didn't actually happen, but is an interesting thought experiment for the two of us. And this is where the president in the episode makes a half joking comment about how he's got to go write one hell of a speech because he's going to have to announce to people that there are alien worlds, that, you know, there are aliens, that we have a star. You know, I don't know exactly what is in the plan here, right? But
that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. What do you think
right, and
announce? Because there's so many things here. What will you say first? Because when you write a speech, you need to have one message. Okay?
Yeah.
So what will it be?
I mean, in this case, it's a little. It feels like it's almost too little too late, because by the time you're announcing that aliens are invading, like that's the story, right? There's nothing else. No one's going to care at that point that there are aliens and that we have a Stargate program. No, all they're going to care about is there are aliens advancing on our planet and we won the fight. Like that's it. That's the story. That's really all there is to it. At that point, once that is over and said and done, then yes, you can go back and start explaining like why you knew this and why you were able to defeat them. But the headline here is the aliens, you know, invading. Like that's really what it is. And I don't think that's necessarily how we as scientists would want that to go down.
Exactly what I would say.
Right? Because now it's a military conversation.
Exactly.
It's not a science conversation, and you've missed out on all of the science. And I feel like this is one of the fundamental problems with Stargate, is that it is a military operation, that the civilian activity involved with it feels very minimal from the side where we're sitting on in the show. So yeah, you have Daniel, but he's basically just ensconced with the military. Like he's there to help them, but there's no, like, you're not getting research papers coming out. And I know that I think there is some where like, people kind of, I might be crossing streams, so I'm not going to make that comment after all, because that might have something to do with something else. But it does feel like we could have had like so much more science coming out of this, and yet I'm not sure we do. It's all very classified. So I would prefer that if this kind of discovery is made, that it gets told from a science standpoint first.
So I think the reason that Elizabeth Wire, the civilian, is going to take over, it's also because they probably realized that the series was not in phase with what the people really wanted. I mean, when this episode was released, when was that? In 2000?
I'm going to say 2006.
2006, yeah. So
2005, 2006.
I mean, it's the time where people wanted to see spaceship aliens and not hear about militaries hiding aliens secretly in the basement and stuff like that. That was not really the time for that. So I think that's the reason the civilians come in the story. I don't know the rest of the episode, so don't tell me what's going to happen in the future. But that's when I watched that. That's what I thought. Like, oh, great! Finally, we are going to have the civilians taking over, and hopefully, they're gonna start leaking information so people know that there is aliens. And they're not like all dangerous. There is some very good, interesting aliens, and hopefully they will explain that they have this new technology and this new partnership or this new treaty with this alien civilization. So that's the way I took this arrival of the civilian. So are you laughing? I'm sure I'm completely wrong, and people will.
No. I forgot that you haven't. That you don't remember the last parts of Stargate. So you basically have 3 seasons left to kind of figure out what goes on. I do know that a lot of this is leading into Stargate Atlantis. So, because Elizabeth Weir is a very fundamental character to that, and there are more fundamental characters coming. So It's going to be interesting how we get into season 8, and I'm kind of excited. Are you going to have to rewatch all of season 8 now? Or are you going to?
So what I do every time I watch the episode you asked me to watch, and then I realize that I need to have the context. So I watch 2 episodes before and 2 episodes after. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good. So you're
that's my evening at the moment.
Very nice. You're not doing the same thing with The Expanse, though, right? You're just watching one at a time.
I watched all of them, so that's good.
Right, because you guys are doing each episode. Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I think we've run out of time and conversation here, so we could probably talk about lunar bases some more, or how aliens should be announced to the world. And by the way, Frank and I are both in favor of aliens being announced to the world.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, neither one of us are in favor of holding that kind of information secret. So just so you know, most of us do not want to hold these things secret. We don't even know people who do, to be honest. So next time we're going to discuss an episode from season 8. We'll announce that as we get closer. I just want to remind people that we do have a Twitter now. So if you look for at SETI Grudge, you can find us there. I believe that's it. And if not, you can find it. You'll find it, right? It's pictures of me and Frank and Margaret. You won't miss it. So come follow us on Twitter, and make sure that you share this with your friends. We want some more people to come play with, and let us know what other series you want to see us cover, or if there are specific episodes of something you want to see us cover, or if there's a movie you want to see us cover. Remember that we're here to do the science. So if you've got something where you're like, I have a question, ask us that in the comments too. Frank and I both read the comments faithfully, so we will respond to questions if you have them. And also, as another final reminder, we are a nonprofit. So if you like what you see, if you enjoy our outreach programs, if you like these videos, please, share with your friends, go over to SETI.org, join our newsletter, make a donation. We are happy for all of the support that you guys give us, and we're glad that you all are here. So thank you once again for watching. And Frank, thank you as always for joining me.
Thank you, Beth. Bye-bye.
Bye.